Santa Claus and the Lost Ember. Once, 2 weeks before Christmas, the big bad flu knocked on the doors of Santa's palace and made many of the toy-making elves very ill. The ill elves were coughing, sneezing and quite exhausted. They spent all day lying in bed drinking hot tea in the hope they would get well soon. But the flu was very contagious and, apart from the elves, it affected all the reindeer except Rudolph, who Santa sent on an errand. Rudolph arrived and brought all the necessary Christmas gift boxes, but Santa was very worried about having enough toys for all those decorative boxes. He worried because many of the hard-working elves were ill, and there was less and less time to finish all the toys by Christmas. All the healthy elves worked constantly, painstakingly, day and night, to get the toys ready, but it was not enough. Daniel and Marco were the elves in charge of repairing Santa's sleigh, and every year they made it better and faster. But this year, because the reindeer were ill, Marco and Daniel had to find a way to make the sledge fly at the same magical speed as it would if all the reindeer were pulling it. There was only one solution: a little magic had to be used, an ancient gift that Santa had received from his great-great-grandpa Claus. It was 3 magical embers. Great-great-grandpa had received the magic embers as a gift from a wizard as a gesture of gratitude for all the gifts he had received as a child. The magic embers drew their strength from each other, and as long as they were next to each other, they burned stronger and stronger, creating magical power. There was one danger though: if one of the embers was separated from the others for more than a day, all the embers would lose their magic, go out and transform into ordinary pebbles. After taking the embers, Marco and Daniel immediately got to work. First, they made an engine that would work with the help of the magical power of the embers, and then they secured a spot in the sledge where the embers would burn safely and power the sledge with a magical drive so that the sledge could fly at full speed across the whole world on that most beautiful night. But there was no end to Santa's troubles. With so many elves ill, he calculated that he wouldn't be able to finish all the toys by Christmas night and decided to ask Marco and Daniel for help. He called them to his room, sat down in his comfortable chair, sighed briefly and drew 2 candy canes from his pocket. Santa told Daniel and Marco that he needed help in the toy workshop and that whoever drew the shorter candy cane would have to come and help him finish the toys. Upon hearing that, the wise elves hid their hands behind their backs and didn't want to pick the candy canes. Santa, however, kindly smiled at this and explained that without the finished toys neither he nor the sleigh would fly, which meant that many children would be left with broken hearts and unfulfilled wishes. Daniel did not remain indifferent. He reached for the candy canes in Santa's hand and picked the one held in Santa's right hand. The candy cane was whole, which meant that Marco would have to go and help Santa. Marco got a little angry and didn't want to leave the work around the sledge, but still decided to help as much as he could. Marco worked side by side with Santa at a great speed, made toys as if he had been making them his entire life, and realized that it was not so bad being the helper of the most beloved Santa. The day before Christmas all the toys were ready. Santa Claus energetically and excitedly filled the sleigh with beautifully wrapped presents as if it were his first Christmas. After filling it, he jumped into the sledge and set off with Rudolph. But, while working on the toys, Marco forgot that one of the magic embers was not properly attached to the sledge and there was a chance that the ember would fall out. On takeoff, that's exactly what happened. An ember fell off the sledge and onto the floor of the workshop. Santa Claus did not feel anything went wrong and took off completely carefree, while Rudolph ran across the sky and the sleigh flew perfectly. But Marco, going to the workshop, saw the lost ember and got very scared for Santa, the sleigh and the presents. He took the ember, placed it in a box and hurried to catch up with them in his little jet-powered sledge. Santa's sleigh flew for half an hour, then the 2 embers slowly began to go out, and the sleigh started to lose its power and speed and began to fall. It descended very slowly, and Rudolph felt he did not have enough strength to keep it in the sky. So, In no time the sledge landed in the thick snow and got stuck. Rudolph tried to pull it out, but the sledge wouldn't budge. In 10 minutes, the heating in the sleigh stopped working and Santa started to get very, very cold. He shivered from the cold but didn't know what was wrong with the sledge. He walked around it, and peered at the sledge, but did not notice where the problem was. For a moment he thought that this Christmas would be the worst in history. He imagined newspaper headlines saying that the famous grandpa did not exist and that it was all make-believe. He turned even sadder remembering that children would no longer believe in him and that next year they wouldn't even write him letters wishing for presents. His train of thought was interrupted by a loud sound in the sky, quickly followed by Marco with his sledge. He landed and went to Santa Claus. In the box, he carried the third, the lost ember. He placed it in the sledge and fastened it well. Now, the 3 embers were together again and were once again powering each other. In about 10 minutes, all the embers flared up and the sledge began to warm up. Santa hugged Marco and decided to break a Christmas rule which surprised the brave dwarf. Santa told him that he would reward the little hero for his bravery by taking him along on a magical adventure, to be good company and help him get all the toys to the homes of all children in the world on time, children who impatiently awaited most generous Santa, leaving him milk and cookies. The sledge charged up, and Santa Claus and Marco jumped into it and flew around the world bringing gifts to all the children on Earth.